Hello, guys. We're back with episode 11 with Talkz with Scott. We have a special guest with us, Valyncia Johnson. I'm a person that means the world to me, a person that means a lot to a lot of great people inside of the state of Alabama and also neighboring states as well. She drove all the way down from Birmingham, Alabama to be with me and us to the 662 in, excuse me, Starkville, Mississippi, and Valencia. I just want to say thank you. A person that means a lot to a lot of people, a philanthropist, a agent, but more so than anything, a mother to a lot of people. So I want to say once again, I appreciate you for coming down and just gracing us with your presence. Thank you, Miss Valencia. And I start off like always. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. And first of all, Scott Lashley, some of y'all may know him. I want to tell the viewers I'm not a mom, but
Mm-hmm.
but I'm so thankful for Scott and his platform and so proud of your journey and all that you have become and who you have become to other people, young athletes. And I'm so grateful to see you go from 16-year-old boy to this man who is a father, a friend, a public figure, entrepreneur. So, kudos to you and thank you for just being a part of my life and allow me to stay a part of yours.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. But I just want to say the background story. This is the person, the reason why I went to University of Alabama, and with a lot of other people, uh, was really and truly a mother away from home, and also a sister, and a lot of different presents, and remain like that for me and a multitude of others. So I just want to say thank you as well. Just to kind of go ahead and get it started off, a curiosity question of mine is, who is Valyncia Johnson at her core?
At my core, Valencia is for one, a believer, and faith driven woman, believer in Jesus Christ. And I wear many hats. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a sister, I'm our brother's keeper, I'm a daughter, I'm a social advocate for the youth, and also I say I politic for athletes, so I'm like a politician when it comes to athletes and, just their success off the field and on the field, but making sure that they are being stewarded in the correct way. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I am entrepreneur in my entrepreneurship is in my blood.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that at the core, I'm all of those things, and it's hard to just. I like to ask other people who they think I am to the core, because what I see is not always perception is reality, and so I can tell you the hats that I wear, but at the core of it all, I'm just purpose driven believer, and I am in the roles that God sees fit. So sister, daughter, friend, and advocate.
What started you on this path? Can you tell me about your upbringing?
Yeah, absolutely. So similar to you, I was a athlete growing up. I actually started playing sports when I was 5 and played sports year round. Never really had an off season. Soccer was my first sport. Played soccer up until I was about in the 5th grade. Basketball, played that up until I was in the 8th grade. Was a cheerleader, dancer, artist. I spent a lot of time like as a creative, writing and drawing, and just embracing my creativity and my artistic skill set that the Lord blessed me with. And so, yeah, I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic schools, and I just had the opportunity to learn a lot of things young, but also I lived in the inner city. So I spent a lot of time walking to the Candy Lady and, being around my inner city friends, but also having to go over the mountain and having to code switch a little bit and learning about other cultures and just really understand who I am at the core at a young age. And so when I got to the University of Alabama, volleyball was my key sport. I started playing volleyball when I was in the 4th grade, but I was an elite athlete. I was like one of the young athletes in the city who, female athletes who everybody knew. Like I was competitive. I was great. Like I could hardly go anywhere. People are like, oh, you the girl from the volleyball team. You the girl that can jump, you know? And so when I got to college, I didn't play sports. I didn't, you know, have the opportunity to get a scholarship. And it wasn't that I couldn't get one. I just didn't have the guidance on how to get it. And back then, I didn't understand. Like, I thought I was going to go to Alabama and be able to walk on to the volleyball team. But, you know, I'm like 5'5".
Of course.
Solid.
Of course.
A solid 5'5". I can jump. But that reality, you know, nobody told me that, you know, they're probably not going to pick up a 5'5" player, you know,
Right.
or I wasn't developing in a way that I could be a defensive specialist, even if I am this height. But, you know, so going through my journey and going to Alabama and realizing that, you know, I just didn't have the proper guidance to help me navigate and make the decisions for me to continue to play sports. And so I went through like a identity crisis when I got to college because I wasn't playing sports anymore. That was who I was, a girl jock growing up. And so when I joined the Alabama football program as a student recruiter, I fell in love with the business of sports. I fell in love with the operations. I fell in love with the program that Coach Saban put together, the player development, the people, the culture of, you know, just working hard and working to win and having a standard set and expectation for the lives that are a part of the program. And so from there, that's when I realized, like, oh, like, this is where I fit.
Correct. You make mention of the University of Alabama. What does the University of Alabama mean to you?
That's home. Roll Tide. Alabama is home. It is what allowed me to explore who I am as a woman. And, you know, it really introduced me, like, when I was recruiting for the football program, families, you know, a lot of times I was like the final person that they spoke to before they made the decision, right?
This is true.
And so a lot of the questions one of the key questions that families always ask me across the board is, why should we go here? I know Coach Saban is great. You know, y'all pulled out the bells and whistles for us, but like, seriously, like, why should we go here? And I always communicated with them and said that really anything that you can think of or you want to do, you can get it at Alabama. Like, you never, you know, like the resources that they have from just being a regular student, it's available to you. And so I was afforded that opportunity, and I was that student that took advantage of what all is possible. It was kind of like having access to the greater world and a mini world, right?
Yes.
And so I just had the privilege of working under the Coach Saban regime and seeing sports at its height, and just really being able to take advantage of the ultimate college experience through Alabama, even though I was like 45 minutes from home. So I'm super thankful.
I have a question. It's a curiosity question. So you're 45 minutes because, of course, you're from right up the road from Tuscaloosa, and I'm about an hour and a half. To me personally, I can't speak to you, but it was like going into a whole different world.
Yeah.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
Like, I drove right across state lines. I went through Reform, Gordo, cool. I went through Tuscaloosa, cool. But as soon as I turned on like that university, like Boulevard, whatever the name of the street was, it was a whole different atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was just something I wanted to throw in there. And also you make mention of the University of Alabama and the experiences that was there. But also I have a question to you. You said like identity crisis, because it was a new world for me. And for me personally, and like I tell a lot of guys, like even college guys, when you go somewhere new, you really can be whoever you want to be.
Right.
You can start over, whatever the case may be. You can buy into a whole new identity, whatever that situation may look like.
Yep.
So for me, you called me something when we got started. You said Scotty, right? She's the only person that's maybe allowed to call me that. But I bought into another identity that wasn't true to myself or true to my essence of what my parents raised. But I wasn't a bad person. I was just exploring life for the most part. But more so than anything, are you able to expound a little bit on that identity crisis, your relationship, how that formed a deeper bond with your faith with God, and also your famous scripture, Luke 1:45. Okay.
Oh, that's a great question. You shooting right to the belt. Yeah, identity crisis. I definitely think is something that most individuals go through, especially if you're going to college. But in general, I feel like everybody kind of goes to that identity crisis, even if you're going to your adulthood. I personally just turned 30. You know, who I am now is not who I was when I was, 20. But identity crisis, I think, is just more so about if you weren't exposed to in my identity, I would say my identity crisis phase was very short lived because I was exposed at a young age to so many different things and I was well traveled. I think that a lot of young people experience identity crisis when they don't live outside their box that their family formed for them, right? Or that community that was formed for them. And I think, and that's an area when it comes to athletes, some athletes don't ever go to an NFL game or their first pro game until they become a pro. Or there's some athletes that never been into Bryant-Denny until they started getting recruited. And so a lot of the work that I do with the youth is to expose them to people and things and let them, people that look like them, to let them know what's possible for them. And so I think identity crisis come from when a lack of exposure. And sometimes, when it comes to parents or inner city parents or they don't always have the time to expose their children to other things.
Correct.
And sometimes they were never exposed, right? And so, I think that identity crisis definitely starts at home. And when it comes to me and my faith and how I navigated through my identity crisis in 2015, I thought I wanted to be one thing, and when that thing didn't work out, I really had to lean on God. I was kind of going through rejection, and I had to lean on God about like, what does life really look like for me, or who am I? Who are my friends? Where am I supposed to be? And I really spent time in my word. I rededicated my life to Christ in 2015. So as of this year, that's been 10 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I just really had to do a deep dive in self to figure out like what's possible for me and what is God really calling me to. And to be honest, and I tell people, like people be like, how did you know that you wanted to be an agent? Really, God spoke to me about what's possible for me. In 2015, he was like, you're going to be a sports agent. You're going to help the youth. You're going to be an agency owner. And these aren't things that I grew up around. So I knew it wasn't something that I just came to me. Even at that point in 2015, there wasn't really a Nicole Lynn, and shout out to Nicole Lynn. And so it was really just God showed me like what's possible for me through working at Alabama and stuff, me being exposed to something else, right? And so to a business or to a problem. And at that time, the NIL wasn't a thing. So I was like, how am I going to work with pro athletes, be an agent, and work with youth? I was puzzled. And then lo and behold, in 2021, when they passed the law and NIL became possible, I was like, that is the provision that God gave me in 2015. So this whole journey of, I always say entrepreneurship is spiritual, because you're leaning on God, especially when you're bootstrapping, an agency, but any business, like when you're believing God for like your provision, you don't know when the next check is going to come. You don't know when an investor is going to come, but when you're creating something off your own hands, even when athletes are performing and they're performing at the highest level, that's spiritual. That's not a talent that you can develop it, but that's a talent that God gives you.
Correct.
And so, so going back to God showed me what was possible for me, but also when it comes to Luke 145 is blessed is she who believed that the Lord will fulfill his promises to her. And so that is the scripture when Mary and Elizabeth met, and Mary was pregnant with Jesus, and Elizabeth was pregnant with John the Baptist, his cousin. And when they met, Elizabeth's baby leaped, like coming into agreement with somebody.
Correct.
And really, that's what it's been like over this past few months for me. Like this past year, just meeting the ladies who are part of my executive team and my advisory team, it's like when I'm around them, my baby leaps because now I have people who are really in agreement with the vision that God has put into my spirit. And, holding on to Luke 145, it's on my bio. It's in my bio on Instagram. It's on everything. But it's just really believing that against all odds, because, Mary was a virgin, she, all the things. And it's just against all odds, knowing that God can do it and he may not do it in the way that you think, but it's going to come to pass.
Right.
And so just holding true to the vision and the vision over your life, your heart's desires, and, just having faith and just walking this journey day by day.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions of a woman being inside of this world of agency, entrepreneurship, and being a Black woman?
That what am I? It's crazy. Somebody asked me this weekend. They was like, "Oh, so you really want to do this?" Like they think it's a game or something. They think like, I think when people see me or something like that, I'm young, I'm vibrant, all the things or whatever. But I'm serious about my work. I'm serious about my craft, and I tell people, for one, I wouldn't have been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing this since 2015. I've been grinding. I got receipts. And I tell people, like, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have went and pursued my license and my agent license and everything, or building this business, if I wasn't passionate about it, if I wasn't serious about it, because this route isn't easy. And nobody is going to hand me anything. They haven't handed me anything, right? It's for the taking. And so, yeah, people think like it's a game, but it's definitely not. And so, yeah, we're definitely here to stay.
Correct. And what are some challenging things that you had to overcome inside of this, inside of this game, inside of being an entrepreneur, inside of your agency when it comes to, whatever they may look like for you? And what are some of those things and what helps you navigate those things as well?
Some of the challenges I've been faced with is, for one, when your idols become your rivals. When people who saw you, being a belle, working in Alabama, recruiting, and seeing you friends with all the athletes and stuff, and, you're walking around in heels on game day, and then you're on the other side, now you got a license.
Correct.
Right? And so now the conversation a little bit different.
Correct.
But I've been telling y'all this for years, that this is what I was pursuing. I've had people, companies, that I worked with, that was pretty clear on like, oh, I want to be an agent. I want to learn up under you. And when it came to a time where, because I have relationships with, some key athletes, like in the league or whatever, some stars. And when it comes to when you're supposed to be like the help, right? Or behind the scenes.
Correct.
And then when people give you like a platform or a pedestal, or put you on a pedestal, it kind of changes and the opportunity changes, right? You're not as needed anymore.
Correct.
Because now it appears to be that, to me, that you're a threat, but actually that's not necessarily the case. But I've had people, pretty much kind of cut me off because they saw the favor that I had with athletes or the skill set that I had, or the fact that I had people, even after I got my license, ask me like, why don't you just want to do marketing? Why don't you just want to do PR?
Right.
And it's just like, why would you ever deter somebody from what their goal is? And especially if you're not trying to help, just don't help, but don't ever try to like deter somebody from like a goal.
What was the moment to where you were like that what was the moment to where affirmation was there? Like, this is the moment, regardless of any adverse situation, this is what kind of pursued you and pushed you in the position that you're in today?
When I met you, when I met Raekwon Davis and Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs and working with y'all's families, really, when I when y'all embraced me, that's when it unlocked like belonging and purpose in my life, to be honest. I always say that, and I really mean it. Not even just y'all. I have other friends, like shout out to Ryan Anderson, but people who always kept me around because they knew that I always had their best interests at heart, or that I meant well, and I was always concerned or wanting to do something to support or uplift like their careers and different things like that. And I also just saw like athletes who were peaked in college, great talent, and they got to the league and 1 to 2 years out, they just fall by the wayside. And that always angered me, because I'm like, I know this guy is talented. I know this athlete has so much more in him. Who's his team? Like, who's representing him? Like, why don't I know he may have had these issues back at home, but like, why isn't the support put around him to help him steward, this career? And so when I start seeing the holes in the representation and the lack thereof when it comes to like the off field, and like building a career for them off the field, and creating something that they could have maybe transitioned into, even if it didn't work or they got injured, I saw those gaps and I saw those things weren't happening. And so that is really what, sparked me. And I was like, no, like, I see the problem, and I feel like this is for me, and I feel like this is something that I can do and I can be great at and I can make change.
So that leads me to my next question on what inspired you to start images management.
Yeah. What's inspired me to start images management? Actually, I launched images unofficially in 2019. And that was in my last semester of getting my master's from Alabama in sports business. And really, I launched my company because people in my community saw like my portfolio work over the past few years, and people were just inquiring about my services. They were just wanted to work with me, wanted to hire me, and I was like, I need to start a business. Mm-hmm. But always in the back of my mind, I always knew that I was going to be an agent and different things like that. But I also knew that there were skill sets that I needed to develop to represent a player or own an agency that offers full representation, and not just contract negotiation, but like PR, branding, marketing, management, foundation management. And so those were the things that I was developing. I was honing my craft, and people from my community were like reaching out, wanting me to work on helping them launch their business, help them, build their brands and different things like that. And so I launched images in 2019 unofficially, and officially I launched it in 2020. Then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. But my first client that really kind of like made me solidify was Xavier McKinney, mm-hmm. a guy that I represented, not represented, Correct. But recruited at Alabama. Correct. His mom, Ebony, shout out to Ebony Merriweather. She is one of my great colleagues. But Ebony came to me when Xavier wanted to declare for the draft, and she was like, B, we need your help with choosing an agent. I wasn't an agent at the time, but she was like, I just need help with the process. And so once again, it's like a full circle moment, right? And so because I was heavily involved in some other players like ventures, and I was just studying the industry and studying sports agencies and stuff, I ran SWOT analysis on the mm-hmm. sports agents and the agencies and what they offer, and then the guys that I know that went with this agent and where he ended up. And so ran a whole SWOT analysis on like who would be a good fit for him, or not necessarily who would be a good fit for him, but presenting it in a way that he made an educated decision on where he wanted to go. And then that agency, which is now was based in the UK, is still based in the UK, but it was the number one agent for soccer. So Xavier, they were the agent at the time. He was the number one agent in Forbes across all sports at that time. And he was essentially launching his USA football division. And Xavier was essentially like that household guy that was signed, and just had the opportunity to write Xavier's pre-draft strategy and that year it was supposed to be in Vegas and ended up being virtual. So we had to go like digital heavy, and we grew his following. I think he came out of Alabama with 13,000 and ended draft night with like 80,000 followers.
Jeez.
And yeah, and so now he's super uber successful in the league and was almost up for, almost defensive
Yep.
year of the year,
Yep.
but he'll get it. But yeah, so it was really it was a calling that I launched Images. I would say like I didn't plan on launching a company or agency so soon. I thought I was going to work under an agency. I was trying to get put on, but it was a calling. And so I just answered.
This episode of Talk to Scott is powered by our proud sponsor, Sport Coat, the premium protective solution for athletes and champions. Whether you're on the field, in the shop, or pushing limits every day, Sport Coats helps you preserve the victory and protect what matters most. From elite helmet to legendary custom designs, they don't just protect the game, they honor the legacy. Shout out to Sport Coat for believing in what we're building. Let's keep raising the bar together. Yeah, so and then you answered my my next question for great reasoning. What story could you give to where it has changed someone's life? And personally, of course, you give your example with Xavier, but also personally give an example of a person to where, if I had to speak for myself, so it was a recent conversation that we had, and we've had plenty of conversations, but to where it's a different type of feel when you can go to a person, not just about the sport, and you have the ability of speaking life into people, of a multitude of people, when it comes to leaning into your network tree, when it comes to leaning into it's a misnomer, and I was actually just talking about this to Emil Ekiyor, who played at Alabama, played for the Colts, et cetera, and now coaching at Georgia Tech. And I said, yeah, man, I go over there and train Wilkin. He was like, yeah, man. He said, I go over there too, but I be feeling a little nervous to go over there. And we kind of said the same thing at the same time. He was like, you feel like you got to be a first rounder or be in the league to kind of even show your face over there. And that's not for bad reasoning. It's good reason as well. Everything in life is by perception. I say it to say, it's what winners are bred. And that's the mindset that you carry over, not only just into sport, into everything. So therefore, you want to, before I walked back over there, before I even went back over there, I wasn't over there for 5 years until literally this year with my son. You want to make a name for yourself. If that's not on the field, that's off the field. Right. Whatever you're doing, if that's in your profession, your entrepreneurship, whatever it is, because it feels good when you're able to do so. But I say that to say, before doing so, having the opportunity of talking to you on the phone, images management, and inquiring about your services, it was something that real deal spoke life into me as a person, and motivated me to continue to aspire, continue to dream, because your dreams can go dead, especially when you consume yourself with the sport and your identity. You'd go through identity crisis, not so much just with what you're doing, but also you become your profession, you become your art, you become football. And respectfully saying, and I say this a lot, and it's cliche to say, but it's something I say a lot as well. It makes you lean into your faith more so than ever, because you are what you repeatedly do. And if you repeatedly watch film and play football, then that subconsciously at times can be your idol. You start worshiping that idol. And it walks away from you. Sometimes your identity will walk away from you as well. So you have to lean and find your purpose. Yeah. And your purpose, respectfully saying, is helping others or whatever it may be, for certain things. And you have definitely allowed for me to do so, by speaking life into me, and not just into me, but also into us basically being the brotherhood and the guys that come along with that. And I see, of course, you being a part of people starting their businesses and starting their companies, such as Ryan, that you made mention of. And shout out to Ryan, sponsor on the show. But also just being there and being inside of those rooms, and being prevalent inside of those rooms. And you being there, you see you at the baseball games, you see you're going against the grain, but you're doing God's work in so many words. And also it can maybe be challenging at times to do things inside of your hometown, inside of your home state, because people will not saying use or abuse, but look elsewhere when respectfully saying whatever you need is right in front of you. So it's the same exact way when I make analogy when it comes to the state of Mississippi, is an analogy that nothing's here, nothing's here, nothing's here. And I was a person that believed that as well. And I went out and I saw like, oh, well, that's there. But also when I came back home and I took off that, stopped saying that and put on just like the vision that was actually in front of me, everything was here. You can really create what you want to create exactly where you're at.
Yep.
And you and also Donnie Lee is the primary.
Shout out to Donnie.
Yeah, facts. The reason why I even started SFP Athlete, because I was seeing what Donnie was doing when I was playing college football, like in 2020, 2021. I said, I want to start that. I was like, I want to start that. Like him, he opened up those doors for me by allowing me to come over there and train like Wilkin and some more offensive linemen, and just kind of just allowing for me to see those things.
Yeah.
But like again, like just how we was kind of cut at Alabama. Your mindset is go out there and work and go out there and go get it. So it was a beautiful experience this past year to see what my platform has grown to and how it's surpassed a lot of things, and us, baby, being able to collab on certain things, but more so than anything, it just speaks back into the narration of words that you said and words that you uttered, to me and also to other guys as well. Just about, leaning into, your networking through your faith, not just about, fourth quarter was fourth quarter running, but that was something that was mentally instilled in us. And a lot of people don't think like us. And it doesn't, you can come from all across the world, but if you went to Alabama, you know exactly, what I'm talking about. It's a different mindset, it's a different mentality, it's a different approach to everything. And seeing a person, a female figure that represent those same qualities does it so gracefully is something that I just wanted to say. That's my personal opinion that I have of Valyncia Johnson.
You gonna make me cry on this.
Nah, man, don't cry. But going to my second question, what is your long-term vision with what you've started?
Long-term vision is, for one, to have I do have the only public relations and full representation agency in Birmingham, Alabama, headquartered out of my hometown. And, just long-term vision is to continue to build it out. It's multi-division, so sports, entertainment, media, and social impact. I want to be able to continue to be a part of major events and bring major sporting events to the city as well. I, want to create that pipeline in the South and make sure I'm a part of that, and building the next generation of the athlete and instilling in them values and making sure that they have ownership of their brands and they know what that look like, because now they need to learn that at a younger age, and at a quicker rate, but at a younger age. And I'm just building out my team. I'm looking for interns and people who want to join.
Get
just
near.
FYI,
get near.
Birmingham, Alabama, hit me up. But just continue to build out my agency and be one of the biggest and baddest up there, being able to compete.
I just want to say, man, and I mean this like so for real, like, because starting off the podcast, of course, like I'm like, okay, cool, but just talking more so than anything, like I would never forget. And you talk about Birmingham, Alabama. I was staying in Bryan dorms. It was like 2016, 17, whatever. And we all was sitting down. Y'all don't even know if you was there or not. But I had made a connection. And I said, man, you know who you need to get with? And she said, who? I said, Valyncia. And I'm talking about Shannon.
Okay.
And I was like, you need to get with Valyncia, man. Because yes,
that's my girl.
Yes, and I was like,
y'all. Great things.
Yes, that's what I said, man. And big shout out to Shannon, like respectfully saying what she is doing. I had seen her, and I because I didn't follow her at the time, and I just had seen her. I said, man, like I'm so proud of you.
Doing it.
Respectfully saying, and I give you that analogy with a multitude of other young ladies that respectfully saying, and I'm pretty sure they do, but I will say from the outside looking in and just knowing, like UAB, last part of it says trailblazer. You are the definition of that. like respectfully say, I'm not even joking, you like dead serious.
Well, I received that, and I want to continue to let other young ladies know that they can come to me. I do have young ladies who graduated from Alabama. This one young girl, shout out to Terrelyn. I'm dropping names, but young ladies who are asking me to be a part of their doctoral committees, and
Mm-hmm.
they want to study sports, and like people wanted me to sit on their boards.
Mm-hmm.
And Shannon was actually my first intern at Images in 2019, 2020. And so she's doing great things like media maven, and she's a part of Women Who Golf. Shout out to that platform, minority woman owned in Atlanta. And she's advising, administrating there, and so it's has taken it, helped take it to a new
Mm-hmm.
level. And so, I just want other young women who look like me, even those who don't look like me. I have young men reaching out to me as well, but I'm not out of reach, and I don't want people to ever feel like I'm out of reach. And, I want people to know, like, I, I want to create ways and pathways that I can teach the next generation, whether they're athletes or provide them resources or people who want to work in sports. My whole vision with Images is changing the perception of representation, because back in the day it was very transactional,
Truly.
and so how can we create a generation of representatives who actually care about the whole being of the athlete, and who are actually multi-talented or multi-hyphenate, who can represent you in the boardroom, but also build your brand in the community. I think there's a rise of multifaceted representatives. You'll see now these major agencies who were just negotiating the contracts. They're trying to create. They're adding brand brand development as part of their division, and they're starting to do these things. But servicing athletes has been an issue for the years. It's not just servicing them like being reactive, like, oh, I want to do something. I've had major sports agencies as a boutique agency, starting off. I had major sports agencies reach out to me to do work for some of their major athletes because they don't do that in house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, Images is definitely different from a lot of these machines where it's tailored. And, I want to continue to build a group of individuals who can service the athlete from a holistic perspective, truly holistic, like business development, mental health. I don't necessarily dabble in the financials,
Mm-hmm.
but I have great resources when it comes to financial assistance and resources for athletes, but also when it comes to negotiating those contracts, those media contracts, and then also those playing contracts. So definitely, I want to be a part of that change and that shift of representation and what it looks like, and because athletes always remember, agents work for you, you don't work for them.
Very true.
So whatever you want to do, you should have vision for your life and your plan and your career, and they should make it happen. And so I've had athletes that just let agents or financial advisors just handle whatever. They do the yeses and the nos. It shouldn't be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you
Mhm.
should always have vision and direction as to how you want to build your brand, how you want to leave a legacy for your family, and what does a 5-year, 10-year plan look like, and make sure that you're a part of that conversation and that you hold your organization accountable to make that happen. So
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. And especially now in today's time with the rise of NIL and things of that sort. It's bad to say, but it's kind of like the thing now to where it's kind of cool to be like the dumb jock. And what I mean by the dumb jock, like the guy to where, oh, I got the money, I got
Never
the
cool.
flash. Yeah, it's never cool. It's never cool.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like from a being around certain guys and
Yeah.
like, oh, I ain't thinking about that. I'm gonna let my agent think about that. I'm just thinking
Right.
about this. I'm just thinking about this. And respectfully saying that's one of the worst ways to go about anything.
Mhm.
Because not only do you not learn anything, but you could be getting the short end stick, and 9 times out of 10 you are.
Yes.
So respectfully saying, just understanding and learning those nuances for yourself.
Yeah.
My next question is like, how do you prepare an athlete for beyond sports, from a financial, mental, family wise, spiritual, things of that sort? What would be some of the processes that you would take with an athlete?
Well, coming on board, number one, my team and I, we're going to bench line. Just like when you came into Alabama, you did a bench line test to see where you
Where you was
are.
at? Yep.
Same thing. We're gonna bench line our clients. We do bench line. We provide questionnaires to figure out where they are, where they want to be. We have those tough conversations on the front end.
Got to.
Not when you get into the weeds. We're courting our clients in a way, and not just our clients, but their families in a way that we understand the intricacies of the family and who are the decision makers, where the influence, where's the risk. You know, in the past, some agencies have driven wedges between families. And so, we're family is first when it comes to images. That's how I was brought up. I have a tight knit and a large family. We have meetings every Tuesday, so when it comes to the accountability of the client, we understand all parties, and we have individuals who manage the family, and we have individuals who manage the athlete as well. We make sure that we write strategy. So we talk about that 3-year plan, that 5-year plan, that 10-year plan. I don't deal with financials, especially when it comes to my NFL clients. But like I said, I have great resources, and I have great people who have access to investments that
Correct.
normally our people don't have access to.
Correct.
When it comes to life beyond the game, like I said, we're crafting that when you're a rookie. Now we can help start that conversation with NIL. We can start it earlier. And your brand is going to follow you. That's going to outlive your playing days. And so what we craft in your brand is ultimately going to align with where your future is. For instance, for example, Raekwon. Raekwon Davis just won NFLPA Week 18 Community MVP. 5 years we've operated Raise L's, which is a community initiative that we do in Meridian, Mississippi. We have served over 1,500 kids within his community. And also, he just became a staple and a hero for the kids to see. In the first 4 years, Raekwon was never there. It was Raise Elves. It was like his team. This year, he was actually able to show up and be there. And it just warmed his heart, warmed the kids' heart for them to see a guy that came from where he's from and just giving back and having the capacity and the ability to give back and to be here. And so Raekwon grew up, with the background where the community is who raised him.
Yep.
And so that's a part of his story and his brand. And when he was in Miami, we were navigating, doing work with the foster youth. Raekwon wasn't a foster child, but he had a family that helped take care of him outside of, his original family. And so he can resonate. It resonates with him with dealing with foster youth or youth who, who need additional support with their overall development.
Correct.
So these initiatives and these tactics are organic to Raekwon, and ultimately it has resonated now with others that he's been recognized by the league for his efforts. And so we make sure that your ultimate brand aligns with who you are, your identity, and how we can carry that on 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. It's not something we have to make up. It's just something that you can just be.
Right.
And so we just make sure that where you're headed is aligned, is focused, and we have the right people around you to make it happen every step of the way.
So one thing that I've kind of noticed is that you have at times, use your platform to advocate for different marginalized groups. Why does that resonate so deeply for you? And what are some things that you do to kind of, advocate for the people that look like you, that sound like you, and basically you're inside of a field that is not, people say it's accepted, but it's very tough. It's very tough. So how do you do some of those things to kind of, help and assist other people inside of this field?
For instance, well, for one, we know that equality and justice aren't the same thing. And so I'll use example the upcoming event that we're hosting, Beyond Sports Summit. Beyond Sports Summit will be held July 15th in Birmingham, Alabama. It's actually down the street from where I used to live in the inner city on the west side of town. And, the strategy is to bring the resources and the thought leaders to the community and to the people who we don't want it to seem like it's far off. We want people to know, like, this is a resource for you. And when I say the people, the Black and brown kids, but
Right.
It's open to
Correct.
any, but but we want to put it in a community and create that experience for them in their community, so it doesn't seem so far-fetched, and so it resonates. But also, for instance, MLB, they brought Major League Baseball to Rickwood Field. Again, it's on the west side of town. An experience like that, also Uninterrupted was a part of that experience. Uninterrupted brought Hollywood essentially to Birmingham, to the west side of town. And it was just beautiful to see my community celebrated and amplified, but also for them to feel like they can be a part of something that is bigger than life and bigger than them. And I feel that, once I said earlier in this conversation, is a lot of the youth in our community and our people feel like something's not possible because they never experienced it, or they don't have people who go back and give back, or not just like do a camp or something like that, but like actually provide substance for them and education and people that look like them, that's been there and that can able to speak to them and resonate with them. And so, because I was exposed to so many different things when I was younger, I feel like I owe a duty to the youth and to my community and to communities like mine to bring that type of care and that type of exposure to them, because I know what it can do and it transcends time. And so that's why I advocate for marginalized groups. That's why I'm always doing things that can help amplify, create social impact, but using being able to use athletes' platforms to push causes or concerns in the community. And so I want to, continue to advise my clients to come back home or even be a part of an initiative that they can help amplify and just use their platforms and tell their story and, and just making sure we have to build up our own. So, yeah.
I hear a lot of giving, a lot of pouring, okay? And sometimes a lot of chaos that comes along with that. My question is, how do you protect your peace? And how do you pour from a glass when maybe you've poured so much and sometimes it may feel as if you're pouring from an empty cup?
Well, for one, I protect my peace. I just stay rooted in faith in God. God gives me the peace that transcends all understanding. And I couldn't do this work if God wasn't walking with me. And so I don't want to do it if he wasn't walking with me. And so I protect my peace by, I serve in my local church. I make sure I spend time with my family. I stay grounded. So many people, like when I go out in Birmingham, it's crazy. People will be like, where do you live? And I was like,
nah, facts.
Yeah. And I'm like, I live here or whatever. They're like, you just be gone all the time. And I was like, I don't feel like I be gone all the time, but I guess like people feel like I'm like, separated from the community, but I'm really, like, somebody told me, they was like, you're just hiding in plain sight. Like, but I think people see me in the rooms and the spaces that I'm in. They think it's not possible for me to still be in the city. Right. Which is crazy. And that just further proves my point. Like, I love when people I grew up with, they see me out and they be like, hey, like, they turn, they hugging me and stuff or whatever. I see you. I want them to know, like, like I don't want people to think that you got to chase the next big city or community to be something. You can have impact, just you can have impact where you be where your feet are. And so I just stay rooted in my family, stay rooted in my community, stay rooted in God and Jesus Christ. And how I fill my cup is I love watching podcasts, and I love watching those people who built businesses from ground up, like billion-dollar businesses, who kind of started similarly, how I started.
Correct.
And I love watching their mindset and learning that what I'm going through is not saying it's not unique, but they went through it in a different way, in a different form. And so understanding that you also have to know what's normal and what's not normal, but also your experience is your own, but like learn from the people who are in the places that you want to go or you want to get to. And so I love watching podcasts that can pour into me. And I can have conversations with my mom over coffee about like, did you see what the Forbes podcast? Well, she didn't see it, so I'll like send it to my family group messenger. Do you see what Immigrate said about building the Kardashians brand or
Correct.
Melanie Hobson? And but I can put that back into my family, and so that's how I feel. Me, like I watch the people I want to chase, and so that's how I keep my cup.
This episode of Talkz with Scott is brought to you by our proud sponsor, William Strength. Customized strength equipment, American made. Since 1994, William Strength is setting the standard for performance training with elite made to order equipment for school, colleges, professional athletes, and private gyms worldwide. Every project starts with a 3D render showcasing your logo, layout, and facility colors, and ends with a full installment to bring your vision to life. Their equipment isn't just built, it's engineered to exceed industry standards with top quality materials and precision craftsmanship. Big shout out to Carl Milton and the William Strength team for locking in with us. We're excited for this partnership. Grateful for your support of the show. Please, guys, check them out at williamstrength.com. And if you're building a championship facility, William Strength is a place to call. Yeah, and I pay a lot of homage to that as well because like for me personally, a lot of times when I talk to some athletes and they're like, "Man, I see what you're doing. Like, how are you doing it?" Well, I say most times you gotta check your ego at the door, because your ego will literally hinder you from you pursuing whatever God has in front of you.
Yeah.
So with that basically being said, and not being scared of asking questions,
Right.
and don't be scared of failure. And a part of that, and like I keep going back to a testament of that, you see it. I pay attention a lot to my son, and my son pay attention to my action. That's really and truly how young men learn. So that basically being said, I watch a lot of things, and I watch like repetitive actions that take place in different people. So therefore, by being, like you said, 16 years old, and watching you go through adverse times, go through happy times, go through high and low moments, and seeing the battle and the faith and the uncommon faith and determination that you have had to start with what you have started and speaking life into certain things. We had a conversation last year, and I was like, "Yeah, man, this is my first year starting like even making my business to an LLC." And he was like, "Yeah, Scotty, like, yeah, keep going. Like, we can like make it like a whole." Like, I was like, "Wait, yo, I can't even see that far. I can't even see that far down the line." I'm like, "Yeah, right." I like, I can't even see that far. I said, I ain't even got my first group in yet. Literally 2024, and but that ability and
I
that
saw it on
yeah,
you.
facts, that ability to see certain things and manifest certain things and bring it to fruition, and definitely saying that this person was put on this earth for a really, really great reason and a real vessel to allow for people to step inside of a realm and a portal that one maybe have not yet been into, but due to the spirituality that you have and that you've been connected to and always have been connected to, is that the appreciation is definitely there from you, from me to Ray to all of us back inside of you as well. So I did want to say those things, and then yeah, you said something that was very, very keen to me. So like this couple weekends ago, I was in Atlanta, and I do not. I would literally watch people that's in bigger and better positions that I am just from an outside lens looking in, and I would ask questions. I would be like, "Can I get it? Like, can I see? Like, can we have a
You
conversation?"
was always inquisitive.
Yeah, I'm always gonna ask questions because it really will hinder you. Like,
Yeah.
it really will slow you down. Like, I feel like, and I want to learn what steps in my business do I not have? What steps in my business do I need to have? And just because I need to have them does not mean I need to have them now because I'm not ready mentally to accept that or be there yet. So with that basically being said, I had an opportunity of meeting up with some people and talking to some people and having conversations. And just the mindset, like respectfully saying, like with travel comes wisdom, and I can learn something from anyone.
Right.
And I really try to learn something from anyone when I have the largest conversations to the smallest ones. And so with that basically being said, it just kind of just let me know that I was in the right spot and I was doing the right things. And some of the times I was running into hardship was normal for the most part. Because without test, there's no testimony. So with that basically being said, and with adversity builds the character of the man. So it's about the mindset you have walking into it. And I keep reiterating and pivoting back to a lot of that you see like the things that you do, the things that you go through, the things that you, and it does not mean it's a very bad conception that Black women have that you got to go through something like negative, but it's the truth of the nature, but it's about how you deal with it as well.
Right.
So the determination, the fire that you have that respectfully saying lit and has lit a fire up under me at the same time. So I just keep going back and reiterating as well to give you your necessary flowers. But as we kind of pivot just a little bit, we're not even pivot. When I go into basically being strong, I have a curiosity question. We're gonna pause. The narration of a strong Black woman, give me your definition of it, and do you feel like it has had a bad rap on it to where, like, say from my perspective, oh, she's a strong Black woman. She's took a lot of stuff. She's went through a lot of stuff. She was kind of born to put up with this stuff. Like, and like, I mean, listen, it's maybe messed up at times, but you look at those examples based on maybe your mother, your grandmother, your aunties,
Right.
and you look at all the things they go through. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it can maybe drive a person to go and chase love in another direction. But in so many words, what are some things to where you like, rewriting that or leaning into that, maybe shifting the definition of hair?
That's good. That's good. I have some of my so lately I've been on a bunch of like investor calls or people who have interest in my company, and so I've been selling a lot. I've been selling my business, been selling who I am, but keep in mind, I curate a brand on social media, on LinkedIn, and different things like that. I always say your work speaks for itself.
Sure.
But, I have trusted people who be like, B, you need to talk you don't be talking, you need to pop it. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like you just too humble.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I feel like I show up how I pray before every meeting, every tough meeting, and I feel like I show up how God gives me the essence too.
Mm-hmm.
I never been the woman, even when me at Bama, I never been the loud one in the room. I'll probably be the best dressed, but I never been like just overly flashy or like loud or but I just never been like, I've always like been bubbly. I know I have a spirit and an essence that can fill a room, a light.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in this space, in this phase. It's like you can see what I have done visually. I don't necessarily always have to pop it,
Correct.
because women now, nowadays social media, everybody want to pop it,
Yes,
post.
ma'am.
Yeah. And I feel like even being an agent and being who I am, I feel like when it comes to women and men and partnership, like I want to still be a woman. I don't want to have to show up hard or tough to make it seem like I fit or I can do this job. It's not on me, it's in me, and been doing it.
Yes, ma'am.
And so like how I show up and at the meeting and stuff, it's not aggressive. You know, I've been told I'm very feminine. You know, but I'm just so, and I feel like God has worked on me in that way. Like he's allowed me to sit in my femininity and to be comfortable with who I am, and also feel like I don't just have to pop it, but it's going to show
Correct.
in my, not in necessarily my speech, because it says like, you shouldn't be the one to boast. You should let others boast.
Actions over words.
Right. And then, but also, you know, if you're not boasting, maybe your partner should be the one to talk about you to them. You know, so it's like, I just feel like God has done work on me, like humility, because honestly, I don't have nothing to boast about. You know, I'm not exactly where I want to be fully. It's always going to be something I want to chase. But really, it's nothing but the grace of God that allowed me to be in this space, to be one of the few Black female certified agents, to have the storyline that I have, to be in those rooms. Like, only God could have curated this path for me, you know? And so I can't boast, you know, like I was a part of the MLB celebrity softball game with Uninterrupted. That same week, Willie Mays passed away. And it was the whole purpose of it. You know, Willie Mays is from Birmingham area, Metro Birmingham, and Fairfield. And so in a week, in a day that we're supposed to celebrate him, he passed away like the day before. Or like the day before we had the celebrity softball game, which was supposed to be to honor him. Like everybody had on like say hey shirts and stuff like that. He couldn't be there because he was, you know, he was kind of sickly. Well, he was sickly. He was, you know, old in age. And he passed away the day before the event. And like I talked to my dad about it. It's like, I couldn't, to be a part of this it's a true honor. It was like the greatest memorial of all time to like be able to have everybody in his community recognize him and to have this wonderful celebration. And we didn't even know a year ago when we started working on this that he was going to pass away that week. Like that's a story that I couldn't have written myself in, you know? So it's like, I don't have nothing to boast about. It's really the grace of God. So it's like, I just show up. I speak what, you know, the Spirit tells me to speak. I speak it how the Spirit tells me to speak. But, you know, I feel like I don't have to be this strong and aggressive woman to get the job done. I feel like God created me as a woman, created me feminine, but I got a tough soul, you know, but I don't feel like I have to show strong. You know, I feel like I just am. So,
yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Oh no, you definitely answered the question. And it kind of goes back into like that essence of a person speaking loudly but not being heard versus a person speaking calmly and it shakes the room. So with
That's
that basic,
good.
yeah. So yeah, that kind of I'm picking up what you putting down.
Yeah.
But when I kind of go a little bit, what advice would you kind of give to any young woman trying to break into sports?
I would say first know who you are, and know where you want to go. And so young ladies like they'll ask me like, I want to work in sports. Okay, what do you want to do? Or what are I don't really know. What's your interest? You know, so like if you don't know where you want to go, how you gonna know how to get there? So when I knew I wanted to be an agent and one day own an agency, I knew what type of agency I wanted to have is full representation, public relations representation. And I knew I wanted to represent players holistically. What does that look like? Okay. That look like being able to build their brands. That look like being able to have a player development division where they can get training or mental health, wellness. And then I also knew that there was going to be a life after sports. I also knew that if I wanted to represent them on the field, I needed a certification. And so I was honing these skills in various, like I worked in some of the top sports operations companies, sports marketing companies, worked, you know, major sporting events, volunteered, just got the experience, built my portfolio just to be in the room, to see how it's done and to see if it's possible for me. And so that So I tell them, like, for one, know who you are, because you're going to be in spaces and places where people are going to look at, the other opposite sex, before they look at you, or give somebody else the opportunity over you. But you got to know, like, this is what I want to do. But also know, like, even if it's not this, then it's something else. So, like, just know where you want to go. Know, like, what is your 3-year plan? What is your 5-year plan? My 3 to 5 year plan was to be certified. It wasn't necessarily I wanted to have an agency, so like, you got to be serious about that. You got to write it down, put it in paper.
Right.
And so, definitely know who you are and know where you want to go.
What's one thing people would never guess about you?
That's a good question.
Shifting gears.
One thing that people would never guess about me. Ooh. I don't think people would guess that I'm as competitive and I'm like really good at sports. Like now, people who know me back in the day, but like I think now I don't think people would really like know that. Nah, like I can still like get right with you.
Yeah, I'm
on
not
the
gonna
court.
lie.
Yeah.
I remember that. You'll pop out here and there.
Every now and then.
You take it like really, really serious.
Right.
Like you're like, oh, she's not playing. Like she's dead serious.
She's dead
like,
serious.
Yeah, she's dead serious. Like, hey,
switch it up.
hey, tighten up.
Right.
If you could sit down with your 21-year-old self, what would you say?
21. Where was I? Junior in college.
Or
Junior, senior, 21-year-old.
Let's say.
I would say.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
21. I would say. Don't wait on anybody to do anything for you. If you want it, it's for the taking. Don't just. Yeah, I would say don't wait on anybody to give you anything, to do anything for you. And I wish I would have learned that when I was 21, because I probably would have not jumped earlier, but I probably would have like left Birmingham. But everything happens for a reason. I probably would have left Birmingham, been living somewhere else if I wasn't waiting on like somebody to show up for me how I expected them to. And so I would say I would give my 21 self that.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I left people better than, when you leave me, you were marked, you left better, you did more. And it's a legacy of impact. Like, just making sure that I want to put so much into this earth and to my community and pour into the lives that like when I'm gone, that the work still continues, like, and so if I always tell people like, I lost friends young and, stuff like that, but that I've advocated enough to the point where y'all can start a business or start a foundation off of what I was passionate about. And so I would say like impacting lives and letting other people know what's possible for them and unlocking it. And how to unlock it is through Jesus Christ and following your purpose.
How should we as men show up better for women in this space?
I would say true partnership, and ensuring that you have a woman at the table, not just behind the scenes, but she's at the table too. And valuing that masculine and that feminine energy in cultivating it in a genuine way, because so much can happen when we come together, when we align. And so I would definitely say that men can show up better for us by allowing us at the table and trusting us as well, and really aligning with us, and partnering with us, and not just behind the scenes.
What's next for Valencia? What's next for you and your passion? Is there anything that you would like to speak on or expound on?
What's next for Valencia is building the biggest and the baddest sports agency. So if y'all
Talk to
looking
me
for
nice.
representation,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, Mississippi boys, shout out to y'all. I'm one state over. But you know, no, just seriously, if you're looking to build your brand and you're looking for an agent that cares, you're looking for from even in the NIL space, someone that can advocate for you, someone that can start building your brand now. You can talk to and empower you to really get your mind ready for the next chapter. Let's tap in. But is definitely building out Beyond Sports initiative, not Beyond Sports initiative, Beyond Sports in general, trademarked Beyond Sports. And just let y'all know, but Beyond Sports Summit is an initiative that we'll be doing annually, and this is to prepare parents and athletes for life in and beyond sports, and helping them navigate the inevitable transitions. So those transitions are when you're a youth athlete and you're trying to choose what high school you want to go to or what 7-on-7 team you want to be a part of, up to, you know, when you're in the NIL, we are experiencing going through the collective or trying to decide what college is best for you. If you're trying to decide on going into the transfer portal, what does that really need to look like for you? Navigating to college to the pros, and even life after. Even if you're struggling with, we have resources if you're struggling with a career-ending injury, you know, and you need somebody to talk to, you need some resources. We're going to put those people in the room for you. And, you know, we just want to make sure that Images is not just, is a place that you can come to be educated, to be empowered. And so definitely tap in with us with the Beyond Sports Summit, but Beyond Sports in general, we'll be having more products rolling out and things and experiences that you could take part of. And so y'all can make sure that when y'all go into these boardrooms, when you're trying to figure out what's next in life, that y'all know that y'all can reach out to us for support. So
Very much so. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Episode 11 with Talks with Scott. Big shout out to High Ground Coffee for having us. And also big shout out to 22 Bills.
yeah.
Most definitely. You put that on my spirit. And once again, just tap in with Valencia by all means necessary. The conversations are really and truly transformational, not transactional, truthfully speaking. And it's been connected with me and a plethora of others for a decade now. So once again, Valencia, I appreciate you and thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, and Talks with Scott. Y'all stay tuned in. He's doing great things. So
Let's do
thank
it.
you, Scott.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.